Quite possibly the most divisive geopolitical conflict on the planet is the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Many have very strong beliefs on the outcome that should bring an end to this conflict, and exactly what the right solution is. Here my goal is to look at all the different solutions, and then to identify the best one. The way I see it, there seems to be 4 different outcomes that people want. They are the following. Outcome 1. Israel maintains almost complete authority over the modern state. Outcome 2. Palestine gets authority over the entire state, including all Israelis who must either leave or live under Palestinian rule. Outcome 3. No states whatsoever. Outcome 4. A 2-state solution that would see the modern state partitioned fairly by experts and representatives of both sides into 2 separate states, one for Israelis and one for Palestinians. Now we will look at each option and whether it is good or bad as an effective solution to ending this conflict. First for Outcome 1. Outcome 1 is Israel maintaining authority or gaining more authority over the state. This outcome is obviously undesirable, as it would see the continued oppression of the Palestinian people, who regularly have their rights violated and are oppressed terribly. Because I do not want the Palestinians facing continuous oppression, I cannot support this outcome. Now for Outcome 2. Outcome 2 is the Palestinians getting their state back and having authority. Similarly, this outcome cannot work. Removing the Israelis is not an option at this point. They are settled there. It is where their homes are. Many of them have lived in Israel for many, many years and are very much settled. They have invested greatly in infrastructure. Telling them to get out so the Palestinians can have the whole state would be completely disastrous and highly immoral. The ensuing refugee crisis and confusion would be disastrous. Any Israelis who did not flee would almost certainly fall victim to the vicious retribution and tribalism that is a natural conclusion of an oppressed group being given authority over their oppressor. Some will undeniably say this approach is justified because Israel stole the land from the Palestinians. This does not quite cut it for me. Yes, originally they did own the land, but now there are so many Israelis and they are so settled that the idea of kicking them out is ridiculous. This solution, if it can even be called that, is also diplomatically unviable. Israel is in the position of power and it will not just be packing up and leaving. Diplomacy requires that both sides make concessions and come to a compromise. A diplomatic deal will never be made without these things. For that reason, this approach is not only a terrible idea, but it is also almost impossible diplomatically, and will therefore not be happening. Now for the final dud outcome. No states. This is of course the more anarchist style approach. Although the idea of no borders and the 2 peoples peacefully coexisting and mixing with one another seems appealing, it is not a serious option. It is a distant fantasy, short and simple. Perhaps one day it could occur, and that would be great, but that day is far away. Both sides want a state, so don't expect it to be disappearing anytime soon. Now for the last potential outcome, and the best of the lot. An outcome best for human well-being and a more practical choice. The 2-state solution. Experts and representatives would divide the modern nation in 2 along carefully chosen geographical lines. The partition would be done by the best of experts with representatives to make sure the interests of each side were fairly represented. This outcome is more practical than most of the others and ensures that both people get the state that they want. To me, the 2-state solution is clearly the best outcome and the only serious option. It balances the interests of both groups in a practical way, which is ideal for the well-being of human beings on both sides.